white meat, dark meat, all will be carved.
Hello, welcome to another episode, a special Thanksgiving episode of the Horror Vision Horror Podcast. I'm Sean.
I'm Missy.
I'm Ray.
We are here to give you a brief, spoiler-free reaction to Eli Roth's Thanksgiving, and then ample warning before we go into full spoiler territory. My contribution to the spoiler-free portion is simply fuck yes! Ray, what did you think? Spoiler-free now.
I know, spoiler-free. I thought it was a great time. It is everything you want a slasher to be. It's got. I thought one of the things I loved about it was that it's got really strong. It's got a really strong subplot for the murder, whoever the murderer is. The opening gives him a really great, purposeful, it's so well constructed in that opening that he doesn't even need to have any kind of other tie other than this weird tragedy that takes place. I think that's upsetting enough as it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, the kills are great. They're inventive. It's well paced. I like the fact. There's so many things I liked about this movie. It was a fun experience. It's a fun watch. It's a super fun watch. It's a quick movie, and I was kind of shocked that I didn't get tired during it, only because that day I saw it on Thursday, much like Missy did, and I had to work on Thursday in the morning. And originally, I was supposed to work 7:30 to 4:30, which is really early for me. So I had to be up at 6:40 and get to work at 7 to be there at 7:30. And I thought, oh, I'll have time to get home and take a nap before I go see it with our buddy Jesus at 7 o'clock. That did not happen. I didn't get home until 6:15. So about the only thing I could do was get to the movie just before it started to see it. So and I had maybe 4 hours of sleep. So I was like, oh my God, I hope I don't fall asleep during the movie. There wasn't a moment where I was tired. There wasn't a moment where I was like, oh, it's kind of lulling, I might knock out. Nope, fucking great the whole time. Bloody, funny, just great time. Excellent.
Yeah, well said. Missy, what about you?
I saw it on Thursday too. The first showing that I could go see it at 7 o'clock on Thursday, and I loved it. It felt like a movie made for me, and it. The cool thing about Eli Roth is he loves horror movies, and you can tell that this movie is made by someone who loves horror movies for people who love horror movies.
Yeah.
It's a movie made for us. I thought that it was a really good blend of the campy stuff that I know me and Ray really love, with a pretty serious whodunit story that, it threw me off, with top-notch, next-level gore. All the kills are fucking exquisite, and
yes, they
I
are.
loved it so much.
Yeah. I would just echo all of that. I was supposed to see it Thursday, and I went to pull up the ticket to make sure I had the time right, at Thursday in the late afternoon. It was a 7:20 show or something, and there was no ticket in the Regal app. No. And then I'm looking, and it's not even listed as a movie they're showing. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So then
that sucks.
I checked my email and I got a refund. I'm like, what the fuck? So then I call, and it took me forever to get through. And they're like, oh, well, we had a fire or so. I forget what he says, something about fire.
No!
So the AMC, which is not as bad as I had remembered, having been there one time and absolutely hate it, but it's in the mall, and it's not super current. They don't have many screens, so they really only get big movies. But this is going to be a big movie. They had that. I paid, so instead of being a part of my Regal membership, I paid to see this at a matinee. I would pay to see, like literally as soon as it ended, I was just telling Missy Ray before you came on. Kirsten looked at me. She's like, I'm already thinking about when I can see it again. I'm like, I would literally sit here right now and just go right into another viewing. She's like, yeah.
Me
That's
too.
cool.
I've had my ups and downs with Eli Roth before. I really like him. I just generally don't like his movies. I like Cabin Fever. I loved his Goratorium exhibit in Vegas when it was there, but I don't know. We just don't we don't usually sing. Well, granted, I stopped trying at some point. Like I never saw Green Inferno or Knock Knock. But for instance, David Lynch and John Neff had a record in like circa 2000, 2001, 2002 called Blue Bob. And there's a photo of them inside, and it's like John Neff and Lynch is wearing this weird mask. And the photo's credited to Eli Roth because I believe he interned at David Lynch's Asymmetrical Studios at some point. So between that and his kind of like Tarantino mentoring him or whatever exactly happened, I forget the whole story, but he was, I think he might have even been, Tarantino might have been a producer on something he did, maybe Hostel or something, but they were tight for a while. He's got a pedigree, and like you hear him talk, and it's like, I always like to hear him talk. But, I mean, sometimes it just happens or whatever. But this, I was like, dude, this is the movie I've been waiting for you to make. And well, literally, so I said this about this movie, Ray, as long as I've known you since 2006. I think Grindhouse came out in 2006 or 2007. And you have been talking about wanting to see Thanksgiving made into an actual movie after that first trailer ever since.
I wanted every trailer. After the promise of Machete became a reality, I wanted every trailer from Grindhouse made into a movie. I'm still waiting for Edgar Wright to make Don't.
Yeah, it might happen now.
And somewhere, I hope that Zombie is planning still on She-Werewolves of the SS.
Yeah, I agree.
With Nick Cage as Fu Manchu.
Yeah.
Because that fucker will still do it. So
yeah.
I still want all of those things to happen. The only thing I wish that he had done from the original trailer is maybe kept it like set it in the 80s and still had the old pops and whistles. But I'm okay with the film I got. I am.
Yeah.
I had a moment where like I think I told my mother this because I just felt like she'd be the person that would be like, really? He's in the movie? That first 30 seconds of that movie, when fucking Patrick Dempsey walks on screen, I was like, is that fucking Patrick Dempsey?
Exactly what Kirsten said sitting next to me.
He's in the whole fucking movie. Patrick Dempsey, Dr. McDreamy, the guy who just got named like People Magazine's Sexiest Man of the Year for this year, is in a slasher, and he's damn good.
Well, obviously because of this movie. Putting him back on everybody's radar.
Like, thank you. I was like, all right. Like, I'm kind of glad that we live in the time we live in, because I don't know. There was a whole period, like, you probably remember this. I don't think people younger than like 20s or maybe even in their 30s would remember. Like, there was a time, like, in the 80s and like the early 90s where, like, if you were a serious actor in Hollywood established already, and you were like, I'm going to go off and do a TV show, people were like, oh no, that's the end of your career. Like, you can't come back from TV.
100%. Sopranos changed that.
And horror was the same thing, where it was like, oh, you're going to be in a horror movie? People don't be in horror movies later on in their career. They be in horror movies early on. Like, Kevin Bacon was in the first Friday the 13th. He wouldn't go be in another one. Like, I love the fact that we live in this time where, like, a good actor will go like, you want me to? Fuck yeah, I'll do that. That sounds like fun. I'll go do that. No problem.
I agree.
I love the time we live in. So we get to have the gift of Patrick Dempsey, who is really fucking good in the movie.
Everybody's outstanding.
Yes. Everyone's outstanding. Everyone's outstanding. You're right. Everyone's outstanding. And the brutality is off the chain. I love the brutality. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, that opening scene, like with the Price Mart, like people are just getting fucked up. Amazing.
Missy, I think you mentioned that the opening scene you loved, but it gave you severe anxiety.
It really did.
was
I
well
mean, I
done.
think it was done brilliantly, but it gave me massive anxiety. I hate crowds and have lots of anxiety regarding large crowds. And just the shots of all of those people with their faces squished up against the glass just was horrifying.
Yeah.
Like before anything had even started to happen.
Yeah.
And it was just done so well. And then when we do get to the gore, it's just next level and fantastic. It's so fucking good.
It's great.
I think that opening sequence before any bloodshed is the scariest thing I've seen
Yes.
in a couple years. Like and I realize at some point, so then like it ratchets up, and then when it kind of blows wide open, I was laughing almost like to like South Park Pandemic special level, which for me was like I can't breathe. It wasn't quite that, but it was getting up there, and I realized part of it was because I find that kind of stuff funny, but also it was like a venting for me because it was so like
Yes.
just the tension wheel is just getting cranked, and it was shot and edited in such a great manner that like really ratcheted it up.
Well, you're right. It does ratchet it up, but I feel like Roth is going to know that with the kind of crowd that he has. Like, I think a general crowd, like I said, I was sitting there like silently chuckling, shaking to myself because the crowd around me was kind of aghast. He has to know that the horror crowd, like, that's one of the things that I kind of like has ingratiated me more towards horror than it like a lot is that when we go to Beyond Fest, when we go to these things where like it's a you feel it's a horror crowd, they have that same sensibility. They
Yep.
have that gallows laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're very much a group of people that is like, if I don't laugh, I'm gonna cry. If I don't cry, if I don't laugh, I'm gonna cry. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fucking laugh.
Yeah.
They're very much like like, hey, when life gets you down, what do? You're gonna laugh at it because I don't wanna sit here and bitch about it. I want to cry about it, so I'm gonna laugh at it. And like,
Yeah.
I love that about the horror crowd. Like, without getting into this movie, but like we saw Adam Chaplin, and like it was, you would have thought they were showing like a comedy from the 80s on screen. There were
Yeah,
so many
right.
laughs during that film where it was just like over the top gore and just ridiculousness, and like everyone is just dying laughing in that theater because it's just, come on, man. Like that, we know it's not possible. They're like a regular person would probably be like, "Oh, geez, this is really violent. Oh, ooh, that's really gory," and we're just like dying laughing because
Mm-hmm.
that's how we deal with things, and
Yeah,
like it's a
definitely.
different manner of dealing with life, and like I apparently have just not realized how much these are my people.
I was happy that I wasn't the only person laughing at all of these ridiculous deaths in the theater like I normally am.
So what was your crowd like? You said it was kind of full, not full, but kind of full.
It was peoply for me. I don't know, maybe like 20 people,
Okay.
20, 25. But I feel like they were horror people. Like I saw horror movie t-shirts, and I was not the only person laughing when, horrible death was happening on the screen. And usually I'm the one voice. So
Right,
it
right.
was nice that there were other people laughing too. I feel like it had a pretty good crowd.
I mean, I feel like that's what you're gonna encounter with this movie. There'll be the curious looky-loos, but I mean, I feel like it's on the movie's sleeve that it's for us,
That it's
right?
for us.
For horror fans. So
Yeah.
I definitely would say if you're listening to this podcast, I think you'll like this movie. I think this movie, exactly what Missy said, this movie is made by a horror fan for horror fans.
And you like slashers.
And like Anthony on this show, who wanted to be here but is not feeling well, does not like slasher movies, right? He's very specific about the ones that he likes. He doesn't like many of them because it's a formula, blah blah blah, and it's just not his jam. But I know he loved this. So I mean, I just think go support this movie because I want a sequel, and I want more movies like this. I want people to make these movies. So
Right. We want these
Agreed.
movies to exist.
before we go non-spoiler, or before we go spoiler, I have to ask,
Mhm.
because at one point, having not been to this theater really since one other time, like last year, we go to the theater they directed us to, and the trailers start. So first of all, maybe Night Swim is going to be a great movie, but I've seen the trailer twice in a week now, and it is the stupidest fucking trailer I've
Isn't
seen
it stupid?
in a very, very long time. I mean, bitch, open your fucking eyes. Are you kidding me?
I can't
Like,
believe.
seriously, just open your eyes. The suspension of disbelief there for me, it dies so quickly. And then it's like, she still doesn't have her eyes open? Are you fucking kidding me? Like,
I
oh my
have to
God.
believe. I have to believe that at some point the title was Marco Polo.
I know, right? That was the only horror movie trailer, and everything else was like a fucking rom-com. And at one point,
Yes.
I looked at Kirsten. I'm like,
Yes.
"Are we in the right theater? Because this is really weird."
I thought I was in the wrong theater.
But it was horrifying, I gotta say. And yeah, I wonder. But you know what though? I will tell you this. I think that means they think this movie's going to be big, right? I really think that's what that means. So I hope it is. I hope it's fucking huge. And I have a feeling we will see that. I have a feeling it's going to be in theaters for a while. I'm going back to see it again.
Yeah, I'm going back to see it again too. Everybody in the horror community who's seen it has loved it.
Yeah.
From what I've seen online.
Nice.
It's getting a good response. And then with Patrick Dempsey's name attached to it, I mean, my mom told me she wants to see this movie. She's not going to like it. When she told me that, I told her, it's Eli Roth. I know this director. Let me watch it first, and then I'll tell you if you want. Like, she will hate this movie.
You
and it's
should
way too
go
gory for her.
to go to Thanksgiving and then be like, hey, you know what, Mom? Let's go see the movie.
Yeah, right.
What else am I gonna do? Sit here and just have heartburn? Why do we go sit in a theater and have heartburn?
No, this movie will traumatize her.
So let's go. So listeners, we're going to go full spoiler now so we can talk this out, because man.
There's so much to talk about.
And really, you may be listening and think, it's a slasher movie. What, it's not going to ruin anything. No, it will, because as Missy said, they do an excellent fucking job with so there's two things. Now we're in full spoiler right now. So two things within the first 5-10 minutes. I was like, I'm impressed because I already want to see 98% of the people you've shown me, and you've shown me a lot of people. I want them all fucking dead in the most terrible way now. Like, he did a great job with that.
Yes. Yes. I'm going to set that up for a memo and send it to you in triplicate, sir, because I say yes to all that.
He also did a great job setting up, like, Jesus Christ. It could have been one of like 10 people. And then there were the ones that were obvious where I'm like, no, it's too obvious. And then there was one of those where I was like, oh, and then it was like, oh no, but it didn't. And then at one point I said to Kirsten, I'm like, there could be two people. And then I was like, oh, there is two people. And then there wasn't, right?
That's what I thought too, that there were going to be two.
I thought that thing too. And he set that red herring up really well. Oh my God. But that opening, first of all, I fucking loved it. Because he's not only executing a backstory, he's not only executing a purpose for all of these characters to pay, to have a comeuppance, which is kind of part of the slasher genre. Like, you fuck up, either you have sex that you're not supposed to, or you like do something that messes up the killer or his family or whatever, or you just laugh at someone that you shouldn't laugh at, and then you get your comeuppance. And in this case, it's just being evil consumerists. And I was like, thank you. because there is something so messed up about the whole thing of I kind of like that he made that point. There is something so messed up about one, it's supposedly supposed to be holiday shopping. Like Black Friday is supposed to be like you're gonna go out, you're gonna buy, people you love, Christmas presents or whatever, Hanukkah, I don't know, whatever you celebrate, Kwanzaa. But you're gonna go buy them gifts, you're gonna give them out. But that's not what Black Friday ends up being. It ends up being like some selfish asshole who wants $1,000 fucking TV for $400 and is gonna trample anyone that he needs to get it. And like these things have happened at these events where like people have been trampled. A woman used bear spray last year. Like people have had like heart attacks and been knocked over. Like it gets fucked up. And like, so the moral compass is off for these characters. And like, I love the fact that he's criticizing this at the same time as using it as his backstory for his film. I feel like the like he's got the moral high ground there, oddly in a horror film. But I think that's actually kind of part of the horror sometimes, or part of things with horror films is that like, and I don't think that people realize that necessarily, is that sometimes what they're trying to do, what people are doing in horror movies and the way they construct them, is having a moral compass and showing like, hey, this is what you believe. This is the things that you believe. This is the things that you seem to say are important. And you're super hypocritical. You destroy them whenever you get a chance to. You throw them behind and placate them or just forget about them. And then someone shows up and goes, I'm not going to let you, and I'm going to make you pay for that. And you then go, oh, I'm a victim. Are you? Are you? And I love the fact that he sets that up with this film. I that whole opening shot, it's tragic. It's a massacre, and it's amazing. Some of the shots of people getting fucked up in that are so painful.
Oh no, it's fucking awesome because I mean, first we get that opening sequence, and you've got all these people who, this massive crowd of people for Black Friday shopping and a free fucking waffle iron, and just all of as the crowd is coming forward, it was just making me really anxious. But then we get to the deaths, and the deaths are just fucking phenomenal. I mean, that scene with the security guard, and you see all the glass breaking. Yeah. It's all like cracking, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And then it comes splintering forward, and he's got like all this glass in his face. Or Gina Gershon with a shopping cart.
Oh my god. That wasn't even the most like the injury was the most traumatizing to me when the fucking like a baseball player got his fucking wrist broken. Oh shit, that looks so terrible.
The guy that forced himself through the door frame and got the glass in his neck, right?
Oh yeah,
that was the one. But then the best thing about that was he still went right for that waffle iron, got it, and then fucking died. And then I love the fact that somebody came and plucked it out of his fucking hands.
Yes, from his cold dead hands. This
from
lady
his
went,
cold dead hands.
And in the
I'm
meantime,
gonna wash the blood off of this package.
You've got Gina Gershon like bleeding out. They trample over her hair, gets wrapped around the cart, and it's like pulling pieces of her hair out with scalp.
Oh my god.
And this is just in the first like 15 minutes of the movie.
It kind of delivers actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Remember the beginning of Krampus, right? Is the whole same thing with the Black Friday blitz or the holiday shopping blitz, but it's done like to music. I forget what the music is, and it's like very, accentuated, and it's not part of the story really. It just shows like, it sets the tone for like, this is the holidays in America now. People are assholes, right?
Right, but this is intrinsic to the story. Because this is the catalyst for the killer becoming the killer.
Which I agree with Ray. It is brilliant because it's like it's like the moral high ground, and at the same time using it, in such because let's face it, like, I mean, even this is going to sound funny, but like slashers typically the setups aren't always great. Like I think The Burning might be my favorite slasher setup, right? With Cropsy and the fire or whatever. But like even like like Friday the 13th. I mean, I know it sounds weird to say that, like, I don't know, his mom gets killed, and I understand that's a great motivating incident, but like, it doesn't. It feels undercooked. Where this is like really good, and when you finally get to who's doing what and why, it was cool because it's like, did not see any of this coming, but you couldn't have because he withheld information, but not in a way that felt cheap. Because sometimes
No,
they
it
do
didn't
that in
feel
movies, and
cheap.
it's like, oh, come on,
Yeah,
right? You know, like
yeah.
who's this or whatever.
Oh no, yeah, no, I know what you mean. No, I didn't feel cheated. I did not
No,
feel
not at
cheated at
all.
all by the killer reveal at
Uh-uh.
the end. I was like,
In fact, they give it to you right up front because
yeah,
the first exchange in the movie, Dempsey walks in the house. Gina Gershon is there.
yes,
She's like, "Oh, you baked?" And he's like, "Yeah, well, you know, for a single guy, I know my way around oven." And she's like, "Oh, you're, you know, cute and you can bake. You won't be single for long." Like,
yes,
oh,
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
yes, I caught that.
I thought he was her brother.
That was the thing I thought too. I was like, wait, is he your brother? Like I couldn't figure out what the connection was.
I thought like they were going to have an affair. Like I'm like, so what's going on here? She goes, is she setting them up? And then they cut to the table and it's three old people. So I'm like, oh, so maybe
Yeah.
they're going to end up fucking, and that's like the motivating thing. And then you immediately get the phone call that brings Mitch to work, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming at all because I thought they show you that in the opening sequence, but you don't have any context for it. So I thought he was just like her brother coming to Thanksgiving dinner and they were just joking around. Like I know the scene Ray's talking about, I just didn't take it that deeply.
I didn't either. It was only in retrospect that I was like, oh, they gave us that. Like
Mhm.
at the
Yeah.
beginning, right? That's because you forget about it right away. Like it happens and it's gone because you're just meeting everybody. You don't even know. You have no context.
There's that, and then there's this. The second thing is once the madness and the stores start, the whole Price Mart situation, that there's a lot of stuff happening that he seems to be like, oh, well, I got to deal with this. I got to deal with this. He doesn't pull his gun out and fire it until he sees her lying on the ground, seemingly dead.
Oh, dude, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
You are right.
That's the fucking moment where he finally pulls that gun out and shoots it in the air. And it does. There was a moment at the beginning of that film where I was like, why does he? What? He's got a firearm. Why is he using that fucking firearm? Because it doesn't matter if he shot at somebody or he shot at the ceiling. People react to the sound of a firearm discharging the same way no matter what, which is panic and either running away or stopping and going like, oh shit, what is happening? That's an immediate attention grabber, and he doesn't do it until he sees her on the ground, and that's when he's like, no, boo, boo, boo. And
But
I
it
was like,
didn't
oh,
stop.
that's interesting.
Well, no, it does because after he shoots, then the movie stops. It cuts to
Okay, and then we
Thanksgiving.
cut to a year later.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So that's a really good. So there you go. I can't wait to see it again for these reasons, right? Like I knew I was seeing things. There's like cutaway shots where I'm like, I know this is important, but I don't know what it means. I love the guy, I forget his name, the guy that was throwing the party.
McCarty party.
I love the scene where he's like, look, things aren't always what they seem. When Black Sabbath lost Ozzy and Ronnie James, all 5 foot nothing of him comes in, who would have known? And the kid's like, who's Black Sabbath? He's like, get the fuck out of here. I'm like, that's the only appropriate response, actually, to anybody that ever says who's Black Sabbath. Like, get the fuck off my property before I kill you.
Oh, yeah, I actually like that character quite a bit too.
Me too.
There were so many weird red herrings that I thought were brilliant.
Dude, I thought it was him too. There was a point where I was like, it's him. It's got to be him. He's got a van and everything like that. And then when the guy goes to rescue his girlfriend, the gun doesn't fire, and I was like, oh, he set it up.
No, he forgot to take the safety off. I thought it was him when you saw the grenades, the smoke grenades. I was like, okay. He's got tactical experience.
Yeah.
But the weird thing was, there's a scene where he goes to her out of nothing, and he's like, hey, this is my dad's ring. It got him through Vietnam. Whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then he walks away, and Kirsten looks at me. She's like, that was fucking weird. I'm like, I know. And then in my head, I'm like, is it the two of them? Is she the one doing it? Like, what a weird twist that would be, Like, what the, like, is it him and her?
there were a lot of characters they kind of set up that I thought it was the boyfriend, Ryan, the
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, the
well,
new
well,
boyfriend.
the scene where he's in the fucking pilgrim suit, he puts the hat on.
Yes.
There were so
Mhm.
many of those scenes. Or then like the new cop, right? I'm like, it's got to be the new
Yeah.
cop because what other reason was there to bring this character in?
I feel like he wanted you to think it was a new cop. He wanted you to think it was both the boyfriends.
both the
Yeah.
boyfriends.
I think he wanted you to think about the McCurdy character or McCarthy or whatever his name was. Like, I
McCarty.
think he wanted McCarty. I think he wanted you to think possibly that it was McCarty. And I think the only characters that I think he was like, I don't want you to even worry about them as a certainty, was the two Opie like football guys. Like, I don't think he was ever like, oh, it's gonna be one of them. Like, I think he
Yeah,
knew,
right.
like, yeah, it's not gonna be one of them. It's not. This, first of all, this one guy doesn't have enough smarts to put together a Rubik's to put together a child's puzzle. Like, I'm not gonna make you
Yeah.
think it's him. Don't you worry about that. Plus, his little girlfriend shows up and disarms him every time he gets upset about anything. So it's not going to be him. Don't you worry. And like the other guy, like, no, they're both are like fodder for for the fire. But like you're right. I mean, there was a moment there where you could have thought it was the main character, the final girl, as it were.
Hmm. Did either of you figure it out though, who the killer was? Because I
No.
didn't.
No,
No, I
until
did
that
not.
scene, I did not. I was sitting there racking my brain. I was
Mhm.
so convinced it was going to be that new boyfriend, Ryan.
That's who I thought it was. I thought
I
it
was
was
like,
Ryan.
it's gotta be Ryan. Ryan's
Or
gonna like.
Ryan and Bobby together.
Yeah.
I thought the cop Dempsey was gonna walk out of that room and be like, "Hey, I should take you in and like have them check you out." Then he was gonna walk out of that little office and get taken down, and then Ryan was gonna come in to finish her off. But then when he came back in, I was like, maybe because maybe maybe I'm just being suspicious, or I just feel Roth had to know, having seen other movies, that like we expected that to happen. So
Yeah.
when it didn't, I was like, oh, maybe it's gonna happen later at the hospital or something. And instead, he's like, really could have done this without you. And then she's like, I was like, oh shit, why didn't I see this?
Well, you couldn't have because you didn't have all the facts.
Right.
Foolish townsperson just
You don't know
trusting the
what you're
cop.
looking at in those opening
Yeah.
sequences. And I mean, like, even you guys brought up a couple things that I had seen, but it didn't click. You think you know what you're looking at and you don't, because you don't have all the pieces until he tells you. But Eli Roth would know that because he grew up watching these movies, just like us.
And it's why it's very well written. Like I was very impressed with it.
Yeah, I was too.
I think it's cool that none of us figured it out. Like usually somebody does. And I was convinced it was either one or both boyfriends.
Yeah, but I kept thinking Bobby's too obvious. And then there's a scene where like I think it was the stepmom was like trying to get around, trying to get out, and she knocks over a thing of baseballs, and we were both like, baseballs, it's got to be Bobby. I'm like, it still can't be Bobby. It's too fucking obvious.
But sometimes that's how they get you. Because I mean, the
Yeah.
original Scream, Billy was obvious, and and then they give you reasons why it's not him. So you kind of, oh, he's too obvious, it's not him, and then you find out that he was one of the killers.
Like Sean said, I think it's really well written. I think it's really well done. Man, I gotta ask everybody here because, and then I'll tell you what my answer is. Your favorite kill? Mine is the waitress. I fucking love the waitress.
Really?
That one was so sadistic and fucked up. Because first he grabs her, he puts her face in the water, opens the fridge, sticks her goddamn face against the fridge.
Oh, that was crazy.
Has to pull the skin off of her face. And then he doesn't run her down with the car. He's chasing after her. She jumps in she tries to jump in the dumpster. You think, oh, she's going to be safe. He hits it, cut in half by the top of the dumpster. I was like, oh, Steph's kiss.
I wondered if a dumpster with a metal lid could actually cut somebody in half. I mean, I don't care. I loved it. I'm not nitpicking. I was like, that's fucking brilliant. But then let me add to that. Then he sticks her lower half
Yes,
On the sign.
on the PriceSmart sign.
And like, I love when
Oh.
somebody was like, if we don't figure out who this is, we're all going to be half off.
Yeah, that
Missy,
was funny.
what was your favorite kill, Missy?
Kathleen the turkey with,
Yeah.
and it's because
That's fair.
of the meat. It's because of the meat thermometer. Otherwise,
Yes.
my answer probably would have been something else. But I think the meat thermometer and then the fact that it popped was like one of my favorite touches in the movie. That and the corn cob skewers with the little smiley faces on them. Like
That was pretty impressive, but that meat thermometer, you're right.
that meat thermometer
that one is the cherry on top of that
on
sundae, isn't it?
exactly. I laughed so hard I could not breathe.
Because you're just like, oh, he's gonna cook her alive. That's interesting, and like he's basting her, and you're like,
Yeah.
that's I see where this is
And
going.
he's got her on a platter with all the little vegetables cut out
Yeah.
around
And then
it.
he
Like,
closes the door, and you're like, okay, we're gonna watch her burn. That's rough. And then all of a sudden the door opens, and you think, oh, he's gonna take her out. He's gonna do something else, and then meat thermometer, and you're like, oh,
the meat thermometer.
oh, you
And then
fucking
afterwards,
dick.
it pops.
Yeah,
Yes,
it,
yes.
that was a lot like when he drove the fucking corkscrew into Yuli's neck, and when he pulled it out,
yeah.
and it made the
Yes.
wine bottle popping sound. Like,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Yeah.
That was
brilliant.
great too. The other thing that was funny though is, all right, he goes to all the trouble to baste her and put all the veggies and everything, but she's still wearing
The
clothes.
dress.
Right, like that didn't make sense, but it was fine.
I kind of wanted the human turkey that was in the original trailer, but then
Yeah.
then there was a moment where I thought, you know what, that might have been a bridge too far as funding goes for the movie.
I mean, I read something that Eli Roth, an interview he was giving, and he said he looked at that as a short film. He didn't want to do the same thing again. He wanted he was looking at this as like a reboot of this movie that, you know, even though that movie doesn't exist, he was thinking of the trailer as like a short movie.
The trailer's like Evil Dead, and the movie is Evil Dead 2.
If you're going to use the Evil Dead, it would be, what is it, In the Woods or whatever is the original short film they used to get the funding for it.
He still gave us most of. I just rewatched the fake trailer from 2007 earlier, and he gave us most of those kills. You get most of what he shows you in the trailer, not all, but most.
There was 3 scenes that I actually texted you guys before I saw the movie, and I'm not disappointed they weren't there. Understandably, they weren't there, but there was 3 things that I wanted that were technically in the original trailer. And I was like, oh my God. Because that original trailer is part of the whole Grindhouse experience in that film.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's great.
And it is exceedingly over the top.
Uh-huh.
And it's gore. And it's very 42nd Street, like in how he made that trailer. Because there's 3 shots in it that are just like, I don't know how you're going to carry that off in an actual film. One is the decapitation during blowjob. I was kind of disappointed that wasn't there, but I was like, okay, I'll accept that's not there. The other one was the was the cheerleader lands on knife in crotch.
They still did that scene pretty much.
And the other one was the killer humps turkey in front of the people collected at the party.
Right, but those scenes now would mean that it wouldn't get a wide release. The
cheerleader, I think he did the better version this time because she got to be stabbed multiple times.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So, Sean, what was your favorite kill?
I think I liked that dumpster. I don't know. I did like the waitress quite a bit. I liked everything about that.
Okay.
They were all so good.
Oh yeah.
I think I probably liked that one the best just because I thought it was like it defied my expectation of what was going to happen.
Yes.
And I just liked the way it was like potentially drowning, face frozen, peel face off, he stabs her in the hand or something like that, and then like the whole thing where like with the dumpster cuts her in half, and then there's her lower half like impaled. It was like laying down the cards on a full house. It's just like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Does he even take out the guy dressed as a turkey with the axe, or does he kill anybody with the axe?
No, it's just a guy with that was another great thing where you're waiting for him to be one of the people in the John Carver mask, and he's a person.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was
and he's an evil fucking clown.
Yeah, that was cheap. But I think he just killed the guy. That was just like random person, wasn't it? Or was that somebody of note? I felt like that was just random person.
He was one of the other shoppers, if I remember correctly. He was one of the other shoppers.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that changed a lot about everything, because then it was like that different costume, and he's got the smoke grenades and shit. I was like, what? Whoa, like this. Wow. Okay.
Was distracted at that point by the fact that he had just decapitated the turkey mascot in the middle of the parade.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even thinking about that. Like McCarty didn't occur to me, but
oh, you know what? I just got reminded. Actually, my second favorite kill of the film might be that poor bastard driving the truck.
Oh yes, no, actually, that was fucking outstanding.
So vicious.
That was outstanding.
That poor son of a bitch. His head just gets taken out with his 2 daughters sitting in the truck next to him.
Yes.
Did you catch the one daughter saying that the older daughter saying to the younger daughter, "Don't look, don't look"?
Yeah.
Dude, she's so conscious of. Dude, we're gonna be in therapy probably for the rest of our lives. That was so vicious. It was amazing.
That was absolutely
don't look
exceptional.
Yeah, that was pretty vicious.
His face his whole head just gets demolished. You're just like, oh my god. And nobody's checking on them. Like, there's just so much chaos going on. Nobody's like, hey, I wonder what's happening with those kids in the truck and their dad.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was really cool was I like that he made the mask something that I mean, it made sense for the holiday.
Yeah.
And in their town it was gonna be something that everybody had access to because they were like handing them out in the restaurant or whatever. I thought the mask was pretty creepy looking to begin with, but then later on when it gets like all melted, it looked even cooler. And I feel like as long as this dude does well, he's created like a new slasher icon that we might see, that they could keep going with this slasher character if they wanted to.
Oh, there'll be a sequel, I guarantee it.
And especially with the whole base of it being like, with the possibility of a sequel and like not necessarily the Dempsey character being the killer, but having like a new killer come out just wearing the John Carver mask, we have the explanation of, from the outside, the town reacting against consumerism and like what in the whole like Price Mart massacre that took place.
I thought the store was called Right Mart.
Right Mart? Oh, okay, It was Right Mart. You're right.
Because their last name was Right.
I feel like they've got that whole base of like evil consumerist culture that they could attack again. So the next killer could just either be that character somehow having survived, or just be someone who's like, fuck it, I Thanksgiving reminds me of the evil consumerism of Black Friday, and I'm going to make sure that people get taken down for this.
Or it could even be people who lost people in the because like Scream gives you different killers with each film. A whole bunch of people got killed, or anybody could pop up and, oh, my mom got killed in that, or my sister, or whatever.
As long as they do not because now I feel like for me, Scream is done. And the reason why Scream is done is because it's always like, oh, well, I'm the killer from the last movie's former roommate's second cousin's ex-girlfriend's minister. And, and it's just like, fuck you. Like Scream 6, I just hated so fucking much because I'm like, okay, you have just now taken the best thing about Scream and run it straight into the fucking ground. So fuck you. So, if the next one is like Patrick Dempsey's, niece. He used to visit me every Thanksgiving and give me a waffle iron.
If it's not Patrick Dempsey somehow survived, I need it to be like the widowed husband or something like that. Like,
Well, he definitely
that,
survived. I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say because when we see the guys leaving in the masks and everything, like
well,
he was
we
sneaking
don't
out
know
with
that's
them.
him. We don't know
We
that's
don't
him,
know
though.
that's him, but this gave me heavy like My Bloody Valentine
Yeah.
vibes
Yep.
for sure. I mean, and that's exactly how he gets out at the end.
Same thing. I think it was an homage, totally.
Right, I think so too. Especially since it the reason I didn't like the reason the sheriff never occurred to me was because this was giving me My Bloody Valentine vibes, and you were so convinced it was the sheriff in that movie, and then it wasn't.
Oh,
So I mean, I feel like, but again, I feel like Eli Roth saw all of these movies that we're
yes.
talking about, and he knows that.
Yeah,
Like it's
100%.
so well written. Um, it's so well written. It I love festive horror, and it plays with its whole Thanksgiving theme very well. I love that all of the weapons were things that are found in the kitchen on Thanksgiving.
The electric carving knife for the security guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I like that a lot. That was a pretty good kill too. The interesting thing about that kill was Kirsten, when we were talking about afterwards, she's like, well, I knew it had to be somebody short because when he killed him, he had to reach up to put the fucking like garrote around his neck. And I was like, you pick up shit that I like
He's
I
awful.
have
was-
never.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I was like kind of glad it wasn't that the boyfriend who had the arm that got broken, the ex-boyfriend,
hmm
because I kept sitting there like thinking to myself, which does something that gets violated, and I was going to be upset if he violated it, but thankfully he didn't. Which is I was keeping track of how tall the killer was and how tall that character was, and I was like, nah, this guy's too fucking short. This guy's too short. Doesn't work. And it's a rule, it's a fast and loose rule in horror. Like it gets violated where like you're watching and you're like, wait, that guy can't be the killer, he's too short, and then you're like, wait, what the fuck? Like it pisses me off, but it happens.
So old slasher movies from the 70s and 80s, you cannot go by body size or type because it's
No.
any number of
Yes.
anybody that's standing around. Hey, you're on set dressing, put on the mask and be in the background of the shot, whatever.
Yeah.
Like because those movies played in theaters and were gone, right? So now where everything is post meta and where everybody can watch a movie 1,000 fucking times, they have to be cognizant of it. But I still,
Yeah.
I will always start because of Kirsten. She looks at shit like that, and I'll always be like, you can't look at that. But now with this movie, I realize, no, you can. You totally can. If it's a well-made movie, they're aware, and that is a clue.
Yes.
That scene where he kills that security guard is a clue.
That never occurred to me. That's pretty cool.
Final thoughts, Missy?
If you want to just see something it's fun, it's ridiculous, it's like you can't take it too seriously. But if this is probably the funnest in theater experience I've had this year. I mean, it may be my favorite movie this year. Granted, it's silly, but I don't care. It was so much fun. Thank you, Eli Roth, for making a movie for us. It had everything I wanted. Like I wasn't disappointed about anything. And I mean, Eli Roth's movies are kind of hit or miss for me. I either love them or hate them. Um, but I love those horror directors that like they're not just using horror as a stepping stone. They make horror movies because they love horror. And Eli Roth is one of those guys, and this is one of those movies. So if you can get in a theater and support it, we want these movies to keep getting made.
Yeah, yeah. Ray, final thoughts?
It's a good time. If you like slasher movies and you're looking for something that's fun and gory and just doesn't lose its pace, keeps moving, keeps going, like this is a great time. Like it's not I get it if like you're like, oh, this isn't really normally my fare. Sean and I saw X. We saw Pearl in theaters. I've seen Talk to Me in theaters. Those are all great movies. Those are all great horror movies. But I think that there's room for the occasional slasher and especially a good slasher. And this is a good slasher. This is not some garbage that somebody just put together and went, just go see this. Like he thought about it. He wrote a good script. He has characters that you root for. And like Sean said, like you first 5-10 minutes in, you're like, oh my God, I don't care if any of these fuckers die. Like you just it's a good basis for having people get executed.
Yeah.
Because when you're too attached, it kind of wounds you sometimes when people get killed off, and you're like, I feel a little cheated. I thought that guy was gonna make it, but in this case, you're okay with it. Like some of these people get taken down, you're like, no, that guy was a douche. I'm glad,
Right.
and this movie pays off on that, and it's just, oh man, it's a good time. It's totally worth the watch, and I mean, why not go see a horror movie based around a holiday on the holiday that's coming up? I mean, if you're young and and if you're in high school or something, you are already going to have that week off. Go see this movie. If you're going to your family get together or whatever, and you have to endure family or get into that weird argument with the person whose political opinion you don't agree with or whatever, or hear some shit from your grandma about why you're still single, whatever, and you like horror and you're already like feeling a little cantankerous, leave that night, plan to go to see it at a theater and go watch this movie. Pick up your night, it's going to make you feel better.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, with a bunch of murder and death, but it's going to be a good time. You're going to enjoy it. So I say go see it. It's a great little palate cleanser for the rest of the the season coming up.
Yeah, it's I agree with all that. I mean, I think it's the best slasher I've seen since You're Next. And I don't want to
I
say
agree with that. I fucking love
I don't want to say it's better. They're apples and oranges. They're different movies, So also, if anybody out there doesn't like You're Next, like that doesn't mean this. You should still see this.
Totally different movie. Totally different.
Yeah,
movie.
very different.
I feel like it's like Highway to Hell is just a fucking awesome. When you hear that song, you're like, that's like one of the best hard rocks. Like that's a fucking great hard rock song. Like Jesus Christ. That's what this is. Like this is just a fucking great. Like it'll transcend. Like Highway to Hell transcends
that is an
audience.
Excellent analogy.
It transcends the audience. At some point, I remember somebody at work was listening to like a Glee soundtrack or something, and they were doing Highway to Hell. I was like, what is happening? This is like 10, 12 years ago. I was like, what is happening right now? And that's what it transcends the audience. I think this is so solid. I mean, the gore is going to put people off. So maybe don't bring your mom. Missy, you bring your mom if you want. But like to the listeners out there, I'm not saying bring your mom.
No, my mom does not want to see this, but this is the kind of movie you can watch every year. This will be an every year thing.
Immediate every year watch.
As soon as it can be part of my collection, it will be, and it'll be an every year thing.
And it'll be so much better than that movie that Joe Bob showed that takes place on Thanksgiving. What is it? What the fuck is it called? With the
Blood Rage.
Blood Rage.
Fucking blow. I mean, it's fine. It's
fine.
I enjoy Blood Rage for what it is. I do.
It's fine. It's fine. I shouldn't say it blows. It's fine.
I mean, it's still enjoyable, but this is way better.
But this is like better. This is like the Thanksgiving, and also like this is the Thanksgiving horror movie, right? Which is a holiday that, by all means, probably it's a miracle it has now a horror movie that's like the definitive Thanksgiving, because it's not one that lends itself easily to the genre. So kudos.
Well, you know what? I mean, that's an excellent point, because if you're the kind of person that is like, man, how come there isn't a good Thanksgiving horror movie? and you're like relying on Blood Rage and being like, this is okay.
Because
It's a
that's
little bit
about all you've
goofy.
got.
Or it's not Thanksgiving with the killer turkey.
I'm
Yeah,
never
that one.
watching that.
Then
Never watching
I think I saw it
I
on Joe
watched
Bob.
it.
I watched it
Yeah,
on Joe
Joe
Bob,
Bob
if I
did
remember
it
correctly.
on
And
like a live streamer.
Jesus
Oh.
Christ, is it bad?
that. Yeah. I would watch
It
with
was like
Joe
one
Bob.
So-
I miss that.
Darcy's watch-alongs.
Okay.
Yes.
I watched it with them on Thanksgiving like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, and the movie is terrible, but
It
I'm.
is.
But Joe Bob was dressed up like a turkey because Darcy made him.
He
so.
was, yes. Yeah.
And it was funny, but I like terrible, goofy movies like that, and I don't even like Thanksgiving. I just
Yeah.
watched it for Joe Bob.
This is not that.
It's not that. It is.
No,
This is
it's not.
it is very well done.
This
And-
is Halloween on Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You
That's
know?
that's a great analogy. Like this is the Halloween for Thanksgiving, which
Yes,
it
it's a
certainly is.
miracle that somebody was able to pull that off because
Yeah,
again,
it is.
it's easy to do a Halloween horror movie. Well, not easy, but you know what I mean. It lends itself, right?
Right.
The holiday lends itself.
Oh,
Even
absolutely.
Christmas lends itself more to it than this. Like this is a tough one, and he did it. So I hats off, and I'm going to see it as many times as I can before it's out of the theater. So.
Mhm. Me too. And I mean, the interview I read, he said he wanted to make a movie that people would want to watch every year on Thanksgiving, and he
nailed it.
succeeded.
He did
He
it.
nailed it. Hell yeah.
So, okay, go see Thanksgiving. Well, if you listen this far, you probably already saw it, or we just spoiled it all for you. And
Or we convinced you to go see it.
okay, well, so for the Horror Vision Horror Podcast, I'm Sean.
I'm Missy.
I'm Ray.
Arrive hungry. Thanksgiving. You'll come home for the holidays in a body bag.
Did you ever see the cartoon Bambi versus Godzilla?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Bambi versus Godzilla. It's a very short cartoon, Missy, and
It's like 2 minutes
fucking-
long. It's Bambi eating grass, and then after like 2
and then all of
minutes,
a sudden
Godzilla's foot
Godzilla's
crushes him.
just
That's
comes
it.
in and smashes him. First time I saw it,
I'll look it
I
up.
started laughing my ass off, and I couldn't wait to share it. I shared it with. Somebody said that because of how their reaction. I showed it to my family, and they were like, "What's wrong with you? That is sad." And I went, "It's fucking hilarious! What are you talking about?"
come on.
A pandemic of violence floods the streets of major cities as cases of the media-dubbed murder virus, MV20, soar, causing those infected to go on killing sprees. Caught in the middle, police detective Angela Miller finds her only trustworthy ally in the self-proclaimed psychic PI, Gerald Henry. As the two try to navigate the violence, they are drawn into New Age guru Abramelin Harvest's plot to heal the planet. Harvest's missive?
The world is sick, and humanity is the infection.
The cure? Murder. From the twisted mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires and Shadowplay in Book 1, Kim and Jesse, comes his most vicious novel yet, Murder Virus. Available